Okay folks, where to begin with this bad boy? There is a lot to talk about. Let's roll the montage and then we'll talk. How's this for a nice drone location? You're going to need somewhere nice and quiet. So let's go into the middle of nowhere, get those goggles on, get the Dji Fpv up in the air. Bingo, off we go. Adventure, here we come. Nice banking turns, looking good. Let's up the ante. Already we're flying through things. Oh my goodness, I am so good at this already. I think this might be my calling. What a setting. But let's get back nice and low again, because that's where all the action is. Fast over some rocks, another big banking turn, looking pretty good right in amongst it again. Here we go, what could possibly go wrong? I mean, I'm going to thread the needle. I am going through those plants. This thing is a beast. In we go, let's get some speed up. Yes, this is looking good. Oh no! Oh, what an idiot. But the drone is still up in the air. Oh my goodness, pretty tough. I'm in a world of my own. Alina is of course watching on my behalf to make sure everyone's safe, but I'm pretty consumed with mine. Oh no, I'm not really actually very good at this at all. Maybe there's something to be said for a bit of practice, but no guts, no glory. Go harder, go home. Big banking turn, let's get up some speed and let's get back in there. I'm just having too much fun, honestly. This really is the most enjoyable thing I've probably ever done. Oh no. It's toast. I have just vaporized a drone. What a complete and utter bozo. Okay, back up. Let's rewind. Slow things down a little bit. Bring the heart rate back down. Calm down, Stewart. Calm down. As you can see, I got a little bit carried away and the results were inevitable. That's all well and good if you don't pay for your drones. We're very lucky. DJI sent us this in advance, so that's good fortune, but on the assumption that you're going to have to pay for yours, you're probably not going to want to have the same outcome on your very first flight. So let's just talk about the gear, see what we've got on the table here, and then you can decide if this is for you. Stewart Carroll here from Drone Film Guide, the channel where we learn to fly like filmmakers and take photographs and edit our videos and sort of not really fly FPV drones. I don't know if it really showed there, but I'm not the most experienced FPV drone pilot. In fact, this is the first time I've ever had a set of goggles on my head, and let me tell you, it was the most fun, most immersive, engaging experience of my life. I love computer games, but I'm busy, haven't played them for about 20 years, and this was the closest real-life thing I can imagine to playing a computer game. It was absolutely fantastic, but unfortunately the results were kind of inevitable because I got completely carried away and smashed it. In case you're wondering, this is the DJI FPV drone in question, and, you know, after 3 good attempts to break it, it's still looking pretty good. We've got a warped propeller here, but everything else is pretty much up and running. The battery flew out, and that was why everything came to a halt there. So that actual video footage of the third and final smash that you saw was the footage captured on the goggles themselves, because you can put a memory card in there and capture what you're seeing in the goggles, but more of that later. For those of you who don't know and who might be new to all of this, FPV drones, traditional FPV drones that you would basically stick a GoPro on top of, they don't have GPS, so they don't hover themselves when you let go of the stick. They don't have return to home. They don't have emergency braking functions. They don't have hybrid modes, so you can kind of fly it a little bit like a normal Mavic, let's say. They don't have tilting gimbals. In all likelihood, unless you've upgraded to the DJI digital FPV goggle system, then you're probably going to have some issues with your transmission. The old analog system might be very responsive and immediate, but it doesn't have particularly great range, and that's one of the issues that FPV pilots face. If we talk about the batteries, then they're not intelligent, smart batteries. You need to be careful charging them. You don't want an accidental LiPo fire in your house. So there's a lot of things that we take for granted as DJI camera drone enthusiasts that you might not realize are so revolutionary, for want of a better word, in this drone. For me, that is a tremendous attraction. I kind of feel throughout this video that I'm going to have some people on the other end of this camera saying, this is not true FPV, you should really make your own drone and you should get into all the software and program it. I'm never ever going to do that. In the same way that I don't build computers. I want a computer that works when I buy it. I don't build cars. I'd love to. I'm interested in that stuff, but I just don't have the time. So I need a drone that works, and a drone that works out the box. And this is the closest thing, as far as I'm aware, to that existing. And DJI being DJI, market leader in the drone world, it's crammed full of technology that's tried and tested and that we know works. In case you didn't know, we have a lovely free ebook from Drone Zero to Drone Hero, 37 tips to get you flying like a filmmaker. It is jammed full of information. I'm sure you'll find it useful. As I say, it's free, so there's no downside. Get yourself in the description below and download yourself a copy. On the controller there, you can switch between normal mode, sports mode, and full manual mode. Now, in normal mode, the drone essentially flies like a Mavic. Now, I want to be a little bit clear on that. It flies like a Mavic, but it doesn't capture video like a Mavic because we only have a one-axis gimbal on there. So when I took it up in the air thinking that it would fly like a Mavic, I was a bit surprised that the camera was rocking about, rolling from side to side. But in terms of the controls, it flies like a Mavic, so that's great. So we have a very easy entry point to fly this drone. Then we can move on to sports mode. Things get a little bit faster, obstacle avoidance is switched off, and it all gets a little bit exciting. And it was in sports mode that I crashed 3 times. Then we get into manual mode, and this is all on the flick of a switch there on the controller, although you need to activate manual mode in the software so that you don't accidentally activate it as a beginner, because manual mode is fully manual. You don't have any GPS control or automation there. And again, you might not really realize this unless you've dabbled in the FPV world. If you want that thing to hover up or down, then you need to control that on the stick. It's not just going to sit there just perfectly positioned because you have 15 satellites locked onto it. You've got to fly this thing. And in that respect, there's a DJI simulator to help you get going. Definitely have a go at that. Sticking with the flight modes, if we look at the controller for a second, these sticks are spring loaded. They return to center, which is what you'd expect from a normal drone controller. Now that's fine for normal mode and sports mode, but if you're more experienced and you want to be doing loop-to-loops and all that kind of stuff, you don't really want that to be spring loaded. So I just wanted to point out that you can take away the spring tension on the altitude, the hover adjustment stick, so that there's no return to center, there's no spring-loaded action, and you have full manual control as you would expect from a normal FPV controller. What is this little piece of wizardry, I hear you ask? Well, this is the motion controller. This is proper Top Gun stuff, and this is revolutionary and innovative and very exciting. What's a bit of a pity is I've been locked down here in Spain ever since we made the video for that introduction, so I've not been able to test it, but this looks absolutely sensational. So I look forward to seeing some other videos to see what people were able to do with this. I'm sure you'll be watching some of those today as well. Let's talk about price for a second before we get too much further into this discussion. I've put the link below for the drone, so do click on that to check the price in your area and see what various combinations and so on and so forth are available for you. But the option that most of us would probably be interested in is the FPV combo, which is the goggles, the controller and the drone itself, and that comes in at $1,299. So it's not a toy, and when we compare that with other drones, we need to keep that in mind. Now, you might know a little bit more than me as to what it costs to assemble something comparable that is not DJI, a GoPro-based system. I'd be surprised if you can do it for that price, because for starters, you're going to have to buy the DJI goggles if you want the digital transmission. Then you need to buy a GoPro 9, then you need to buy all the component parts, you need to buy a transmitter, etc, etc. And then you need to go to the trouble of building it and all that kind of stuff. So to the best of my knowledge, this is actually quite good value for what you are getting, not to mention all the technology that comes in here. But it's not a toy. This is not a toy. It's not a cheap thing. So you're going to want to be quite serious that you want to get involved in this. If we talk about the camera for a second, we have a 4K camera there capable of 60 frames per second. Very nice. We have the super wide field of view, 150 degrees for that kind of immersive experience. Now, to my mind, that's not necessarily overly cinematic, but it is a very kind of FPV look. When the sides of the screen is rushing past you, it does look great, but we can also narrow in the field of view, get a nice straight horizon with the settings in there for more cinematic field of view that, in my opinion, will be easier to blend with non-drone footage. So that's cool. We also have inbuilt electronic stabilization if you wish. So a little bit like the hypersmooth that you would get on a GoPro, for example. So we can get nice smooth footage off the drone from square one without having to process it through any rock-steady third-party stabilization software, for example. There's a difference though in terms of the picture that you will get from this versus the picture you would get on a Mavic 2 Pro, for example. It's not a fair comparison. This is a 1/2.3 inch sensor, so we're talking more like a kind of Mavic Air type picture quality as opposed to a Mavic 2 Pro, but then different tools for different jobs. This is an FPV drone. The Mavic 2 Pro is a cinema drone, even though they do cost about the same these days. This is the first time I've used FPV goggles with a drone, and I have to say I was blown away by the experience. It was so much fun, and probably the main reason I got so carried away thinking I was flying a computer game. There's a complete seal around your face, there's no light comes in, so all you see is the image that the camera sees. You really feel like you are sitting on top of that drone, and it is honestly so much fun. So much so I actually got a little bit woozy flying the drone because my erratic flying was kind of going straight into my head, and I was like, oh man, so I had to sit down while I was flying it, but maybe you get used to that. I don't know, you can tell me in the comments below. As for the technical side of things, you have a rock solid OcuSync 3.0 transmission there with about 16 kilometers range. It's absolutely ridiculous and way further than you should ever attempt to fly any drone, never mind this one. But nonetheless, it's good to know that you have that indestructible transmission between your camera and your goggles, so that's not going to be a reason why you would lose your drone. I believe one of the arguments for an analog FPV system over a digital FPV system is because there's no latency, or certainly less latency, so everything's very responsive. I have to say, if there is any lag between the transmission of the picture from the camera to the goggles, I didn't notice it. It was not perceptible for me at my level of experience. I didn't feel like I was moving a stick and then I would see the drone move. Not in the slightest. It was instant, and I can't fault it in that respect. Something I completely take for granted is the 25-minute battery life you get, roughly speaking, with most DJI drones these days. Now, I didn't realize that a traditional FPV setup will give you a 2 to 10-minute battery life if you're lucky. The DJI Fly gives you a stated battery life of 20 minutes. So let's say you get flight time of somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes. That's a significant improvement. Now, it's not only convenient to not have to bring it down and change the battery, it also has implications for when you're up in the air. You're in all likelihood going to make multiple passes at the same kind of move because there'll be a learning curve, especially if you're going for a more dramatic FPV style move. So being able to do it over and over without having to land the thing to change it and then go up again, it has practical implications for getting better footage with your drone. I'll keep this video short because it is just a first look after all, but in terms of the tech, I'm genuinely impressed. It's durable. That might be something that people are a little bit concerned about, and I think one of the advantages of coming from a DIY traditional approach to FPV is that you build your own drone. It means when you crash it and break it, you know how to fix it. Now, there are some parts here that you can replace yourself, like this top shell, for example, the props obviously, but if you do an absolute number on your drone, then you're going to have to send it off. DJI has a care refresh plan that in this instance might be extremely good value because this is going to be more crashable and more crashed, I suspect, than other DJI drones. I personally think this drone sits side by side with the existing FPV world. There's different tools for different jobs. If you want to do racing, then fine, get yourself a racing build. If you want to do acrobatics, get yourself an acrobatic build. I'll be interested to see once the dust has settled where this drone sits. I see it more as a kind of cinematic tool. I think you have the possibility there of creating stunning cinematic moves that aren't possible on a traditional drone. And for me, that's interesting. So we'll see what happens. Do leave your comments below. There's quite a lot to take in here. I'll be interested to see some other people's opinions on this. So do engage with us. And yeah, stay tuned. We have lots more drone content coming soon.